happiness to everything as love goes glory. Love is the strangest thing, no song of birds upon the wing shall in our hearts more sweetly sing when love goes glory. Whatever hearts may desire, whatever life may send, this is a tale that never will tire.
Nipponese planes began bombing Manila in early December.
The world is at war. Life was not easy and full of uncertainty. But for this young man, it was a moment of opportunity to claim greatness and enduring legacy. It all began with his traditional values of love for family, humanism, and an enterprising spirit. Ambitious, good-looking, equipped with strong self-discipline, values of hard work and frugality, and a natural love for learning. He may have been destined to become a king, but empires were never built overnight. This is the story of Angelo King, the sharp-witted, meticulous businessman turned philanthropist.
Dad, you have lived a full life, and I thank the Lord that He has given you all these fruitful years and faithful years, and I'm proud to be your son.
King C2, or Angelo King, always believed that he was destined for greatness. After all, it was laid down on the date of his birth, as the Chinese believes. "I am 4 times a king," he said, and with his hard work, self-discipline, work ethics, love for learning, and a keen eye for opportunities, he existed to be great. Indeed, just like a true king.
My husband Awad and Angelo were very close. They were very industrial because they experienced the Japanese occupation. That time, you sell anything, whatever you can sell. May karito pa sila. One time, Angelo told me, they are selling pang-pai-pai around Cable Church.
The young Angelo esteemed hard work and resourcefulness to earn money to help his family. As a young man, he also valued education. He was a man of deep thought and analytical mind. He loved numbers as well as the arts. His love for reading was apparent in his part-time business of selling newspapers, comics, and second-hand books and magazines. He also got into poetry and drama club during his years at Chiang Kai-shek School. Later on, his natural affinity with numbers led him to study engineering in Mapua. Unfortunately, he did not finish his degree. Nonetheless, his computing skills, sharp memory, and endearing personality became handy as he ventured into his first real business at the young age of 23. He called it Pacific Glass Company, a glass wholesale and retail shop, which his father and relatives also had before.
Angelo is very determined to earn big. He was in charge for external, talking with clients and suppliers, while my husband is in charge of internal operation. They practice Chinese style of management, but Angelo is more modern than traditional.
From then on, one business led to another. He entered the world of banking and finance through his Mercantile Financing Corporation and Daily Savings and Loan Association.
He is much interested to talk to Willie Texon because alam mo si Willie Texon, president ng Solid Bank before. He would prepare to talk to people, yung mautak, he talks sense at the same time, meron siyang influence. At least meron siya makukuha sa kanya business-wise, etc. Something like that.
Angelo did not stop looking for more opportunities to build his wealth. After a chance observation of the seedy motel across his home in Manila, he immediately set out to study thoroughly and plan carefully the potentials of this fairly underdeveloped but noticeably lucrative industry. And in 1970, he opened his first motel business on FB Harrison in Pasay. It did not take long for this business to grow and become so successful. Angelo bought one motel after another, renovated it, added new facilities, and improved the quality of service. In no time, the motel chain cemented the king's massive fortune.
When I talked to him, Pedro, malakas pala, we are the wrong business yata. Sabi niya, sa pinasing kami. Bakit sir? Mas malakas itong motel, kumita. Kaya malakas kumita because of your turnover. A room could sell as high as 5 customers a day.
As his businesses exerted industry influence, his reputation as a businessman and as a boss also became legendary.
When I started working with Dad, I started working as an administrator. Then from becoming an administrator, he pushed me to go into operations. Then from operations, he pushed me out of that box. He wanted me to be more entrepreneurial. He would push me and stretch me to go to the next level.
Meron siyang business appointment. Parang, I could consider him as the guy with the Midas touch. Everything that he hold on to, puro nagiging successful. Planned it thoroughly, but rather, sometimes sa kanya kasi mayroong gut feel eh.
So, si Dad, tutok, dikit, kulit. Araw-araw review ng assignments. Araw-araw, kailangan may progress report. Dapat may nangyari, may development yung assignments. At saka kalang tapos agad. Hindi, ay, bagyo. Bagyo, magalit yan si Daddy.
But beneath the tough shell is a soft heart who looked after the welfare of his loyal and trusted employees.
As a boss, AK is a generous person. He takes care of his people and recognizes their effort. And in return, he rewards them with the job that they have done. Like he gave us cash gift or he sent us to travel abroad. And then, it is not only for mga office people, everybody, even household. Working with AK is like working with a mentor who is very strict. Kumbaga sa teacher, terror. Pero, yung character niya, marami ka matututuhan sa kanya eh. Magiging habit mo na rin yung ways niya eh. Pag nakapas ka na raw sa kanya, yung pasado ka sa kanya, is kahit na presidente ng Pilipinas daw, makakapasa ka na rin.
Angelo's obsession to earn big and succeed was rooted in his deep sense of responsibility to become a good provider to his family, even to the whole clan. He was only 25 years old when he married Belen Rosario, who came from the family who owned the COD malls, the country's major retail destination from 1960s to 1980s.
Dad actually met Mom because Mom went to the glass store of Dad. Dad started his first business as a glass store. And Mom was buying glass for their family residence in Balete Drive.
Angelo and Belen were blessed with 2 children, Archie and Whedon. The 2 boys would eventually become their father's apprentices. They were trained hard to become future business leaders.
He taught me a lot of discipline. Discipline in eating, discipline in exercise, discipline in work, being thorough, attention to details.
I remember when he got his first Mustang and he let me drive his car. That was 1970. That was fun. Being a teenager at that time, being given the privilege of driving a sports car, it's something else. We used to jog a lot every morning. Growing up, I remember as well our weekends out of town with the whole family.
His leadership and management style may have worked to propel his fortune to greater heights. His children initially suffered the brunt of his strictly business frame of mind.
In his younger days as a striving businessman, he was short-tempered, he was too in a hurry, he was so much into expecting the best and excellence in all his subordinates. His expectations were beyond our capability at most to deliver.
Living with him every morning with like a jog early in the morning, and he'd always lecture or have always something to say on how we go about our lives, and always reminds us what we should be doing and how we are.
Eventually, grandkids ran around the house on weekends. And later on, these third-generation children would also learn and experience the king's business values and wisdom.
One of the greatest values that he has ever passed on to us was really to appreciate the value of things. Lolo is very creative. Lolo is really passionate when he gets into something.
Another thing that I really admired about my grandfather was that he was very charismatic. He was not an easy guy to be with. But what I picked up from that was that he was acting in his capacity, doing his best to make sure that our generation had a strong, bearing in what we were supposed to do, what our responsibilities were.
When Angelo King started building his empire, he only wanted to make sure that his family, down to the future generations of the King clan, would lead comfortable lives. Indeed, he succeeded in this mission, but he later realized that more people deserved his fortune. Simultaneous with the expansion of his social network was his exposure to social civic work when he joined the JC's Chamber International, or JCI. First, as one of the founders of the JCI Capital Chapter, and on his fourth year, his unprecedented election to the Philippine JCs as its national president. He developed a deeper sense of sharing and giving back in a bigger scale. He soon set out to retire at the age of 60, gradually turning over the business to his children. By mid-1970s, Angelo King, the well-accomplished businessman, found a new calling, that of a philanthropist. Angelo King set up his own charitable organization in 1978, the Angelo King Foundation Incorporated, a multi-sectoral grant foundation that enables people to help themselves. Since then, his name had become synonymous to philanthropy, and unknown to many, had been involved with hundreds of charity works.
My dad started with nothing, and he'd like to give back, to create the same opportunity to the less fortunate as well. So that's why he set up the foundation to help people help themselves. In fact, that's the theme of the foundation, helping people help themselves. I would say the greatest and best legacy that will stay with us is the empowering of the lives that he has touched.
The foundation focused mainly on assisting sustainable and long-term projects of organizations whose beneficiaries would eventually be taught to become productive and independent in the long run. He believed in the ancient Chinese proverb, "You give man a fish, and you will feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime." Naturally, among the many sectors that needed funding, it was education and developing livelihood for the poor people that became Angelo King's top priorities. From Basilan to Jolo, all the way to China, in rural and urban communities, in multi-sectoral organizations, from medical, community development and livelihood, socio-civics, the spiritual, to arts and culture. Thousands of families, students, educators, both rich and poor, have benefited from his blessings.
Very humble and very simple guy, and does not want to be in the limelight. He would just want to help in the background.
And even when he's gone, his name and good heart would forever be remembered.
Matipid. Pero galante sa fama, pagtulong sa mahirap. So he wants to give back. He makes the money here, so he wants to give it back to the Filipinos. He told me, he come with nothing, he goes with nothing.
Angelo King may have lived the life of many of us could only dream of. But it was far from perfect. He was a hopeful and pragmatic young man, an exacting taskmaster, but a tireless mentor and a compassionate provider. A tired businessman who found his higher purpose in the deeper meaning of life. When he approached the dusk of his fruitful and colorful life, as Parkinson's disease slowly took over his health, he focused more on enriching his relationships with his family, and most of all, with God.
Well, my relationship with Dad got better as he mellowed down. I shifted from looking at him from being a boss to being a father. Then when he got sick and he was already disabled and bedridden, I would visit him once a week. I would just hold his hands and just tell him I love you.
A man's greatness cannot be measured with the empire he built. It is only the people whose lives he has touched and inspired that will matter most in deciding how great his life has been.
In every boss, there's always flaws. He may not be the perfect, pero para sa akin, he is perfect na eh. Kasi all of the habits of an effective leader, parang nasa kanya lahat eh.
Para sa akin, the way he talks, honesty is not, it does not depend on the amount. It is in the act.
Sabi niyo sa akin, Father, I envy you. Why naman? You are so rich. You're rich, I'm poor. No, because you are happy. That's the secret. We maintain happiness.
Angelo King had indeed lived his life with greatness, not only with the material wealth, but with wisdom and compassion. He may have joined the real king in heaven, but his story and legacy will continue to inspire and touch the lives of many, especially his beloved family.
Dad was loved by our Father in heaven. He was pursued by Him till He had him broken, captured and trapped in his sickness, that the only thing he could do was to turn upward to God for his strength, endurance, and comfort. With Dad's long-suffering and enduring patience, God was able to sanctify his soul for His glory. Born a king, Dad was made to be a prince with God, to reign and rule with Him in His kingdom.